Well, welcome to the Helping Families Be Happy podcast, where we explore the often messy world of family, love, and relationships. I'm your host for this podcast, Christopher Robbins, the co-founder of Familius Publishing, husband, father of 9, author, fly fisherman, and backpacker based in the beautiful Central Valley of California. We hope to bring you nourishing, real-life information about love, family, relationships, and life. Now, I'm happy to introduce today's guest, Talmadge Iyer. Now, Tal Iyer has made contributions in athletics, humanitarian work, family life, academics, and international business. After being named a senior captain of the 2002-2003 Weber State University basketball team, he helped lead the Wildcats to an undefeated regular season, Big Sky Conference championship, and NCAA tournament berth. After making a lifelong commitment to the lovely Anita Jose, apologize, is that how you say that?
That's right. I need to
Jose,
go.
in September 2009, Anita and Tal went on a 9-month travel and humanitarian expedition in Africa and India. In December 2011, Anita and Tal welcomed their daughter, Anina, into their family, and dad mode was officially activated. Tal went on to earn a Master of Applied Positive Psychology, MAPP degree at the University of Pennsylvania, and then applied his learnings with his family and as a Swiss-based leader in global business development. Through it all, Tal's highest priority has remained his family, and dad mode reveals some of his key learning along the way. Tal and his family currently live in the Swiss Alps. Today, we're talking about dad mode, ideas that create improved connection between fathers and their children. This podcast aligns with the Familius habits: learn together, love together, talk together, and play together. You can learn more about the Familius 10 habits of happy families by going to the Habit Hub blog on familius.com. For the video of this podcast, please go to the YouTube channel for Familius. Tal, so welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rick Christopher.
I'm sure we all wish that we could be living in the Swiss Alps right now.
It is pretty idyllic. I don't know if you've, seen the movie Heidi, but you hear those cowbells ringing off the mountains in the summer, and then a lot of good skiing in the winter. So we're pretty happy with it. We
Yeah,
feel a lot of gratitude.
that's great. Well, you've had quite the career and busy, but probably dad is probably one of your first loves, is it not?
Yes, yes, it
Okay,
is.
so you've published a book called Dad Mode: 25 Ways to Connect with Your Children. So what is dad mode?
So I define dad mode in the book right from the beginning in the introduction, Christopher. And what it is basically the art of applying consistent and focused effort toward building and maintaining a warm emotional connection with our children. So I don't see it as, I see it as an art, and I see it as effort, not the perfect dad. We don't want any dads to be feeling like they have to be perfect here. It's a big mess most of the time. But we when we put the effort into it consistently, it becomes this beautiful art, and that connection can happen.
Okay. So I guess that also explains why, because you want dads everywhere to have this ongoing, healthy connection with their children at no matter what age they are.
Yes, yes, exactly. My daughter is 12 years old, and I speak from experience through the book. I do talk a lot about my failures and successes, but I'm also a son. I'm also, a brother, and I think it's helpful for any dad.
So in the book, you talk about ways to connect and ways to reconnect, mindsets for connection, ways to create a lasting connection. So,
Yes.
maybe, I have a son I think he's turning 32 this year. And he
Hmm.
left when had just turned 18, like a couple of weeks after he turned 18. So we're getting to the point where he will have lived outside the home longer than I even knew him. We're getting very close to that, right?
Yes.
That that might go into to reconnect. How do I reconnect with my adult? son.
Exactly. I think that the book can apply to any of those things. So one of the things that I think about is in the reconnect part, it's mostly about how to repair a breach or a disconnect. And so I talk about the importance of figuring out how to really see the other person's perspective and apologize and forgive. And I think that if you have a connection with your son that's that age, then that might not be necessary. But that's really the area that I go into with reconnecting. But when it comes to it's a whole different experience with adults, connecting with adults. And I don't dig into that too much in the book, but it applies to, I guess, all ages.
Okay. Well, you bring up a lot of things in your book that might be interesting to discuss. Let's talk about, you reference authoritative parenting.
Yes,
What
yes,
is
yes.
that?
So let me tell you, I studied positive psychology at the University of Pennsylvania, and I loved every minute of it because I love understanding how things work. And one of the things that I came across is one of my professors was Angela Duckworth, who is now runs the character lab in at the University of Pennsylvania, and she was one of my favorite teachers. And she taught that authoritative coaches, parents, and teachers are the best in what they do because they get the most from the people that they're coaching, training, or teaching. And what that is basically a combination of being supportive, but also demanding. And it is a very difficult combination. But if parents, if dads can really get this figured out, how they can be demanding of what they want their children to do, but also supportive and loving and warm in the way they do it, their kids are gonna get the most out of it, and also they'll learn the most. And so I love this concept because I actually fail at it quite a bit. I'm more along the lines of I'm very supportive, but I'm not very demanding. And I'm learning how to become more of an authoritative dad with my daughter around, for example, screen time, because I'm much more the person who is not too demanding, but I'm very supportive. So it's a struggle for me, but it's been an amazing process to write about it, and I think it's helped me a lot.
But let
I
me
think
reframe what I think I'm understanding. So what I've found in my own life, whether it's been my business life or my family life, is that people will often rise to the level of expectations that you set.
yes, yes,
Right? So if I'm a dad, it's good for me to set high expectations, whatever our family dynamic is, to set expectations for my children, so that they understand those. But what I need to do is be very supportive and be a great coach. I remember Chuck Coonrad, who was one of my mentors, business mentors. He said a great coach takes people where they can't get to by themselves.
beautiful. Yes, that's going right into it, Christopher. And some of the best coaches I ever had were the coaches who said, I know you have the ability to run faster than that, and I'm gonna hold you accountable to that. And it pushed me so hard. I still remember being ready to uh, keel over a few times, but I got pushed to the point where I was ready to play in games, and I was a better player because of it. So yes, it's in coaching and parenting. I'm not saying parents need to be that cutthroat crazy, but I think that so often we don't get that mixture right of both support and loving, but also demanding.
Okay, so let's make it applicable. You brought up screen time, which is a real issue, and Familius has actually published a book called The Phone Book to help parents and their children who receive their first phone how to navigate this
Yes,
technology
yes,
appropriately and responsibly. So
great.
let's take your daughter. She's got a phone. Screen time might be she might be overusing that screen time. How can we as dads understand how to be authoritative, be supportive yet demanding in terms of what your expectations are?
Great. I love it. I'm working on it right now, Christopher. So basically, what I do is I use this idea of situation modification. It's one of those. technical words in psychology, but basically what it means is out of sight, out of mind. And so what we do is we bought a box just on Amazon that you basically can put all the phones inside of. It's like a bamboo little box. And when those are out of sight, and we put it usually one room away from where we are with all the things off on it for dinner, for example. And that's a way that we can basically get it out of our mind, first of all. But then I have to say, there's an authoritative way, supportive and demanding. Anina, there's no phones after 20 to 30 minutes before before bed, and there's no phones at the dinner table. And then we have certain days of the week that we actually can use the phone and where she can use it, and some days where she can't. And I have to stick to those, and it's very difficult. I feel for every parent right now because the way that these screens are and the programs are managed, it's so addictive that it's difficult. But we continue to work on this authoritative way, and that's the way I suggest that parents do it as well.
So I must be a very authoritative parent leaning towards the demanding part because our children don't get any phones until they go to college.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. What has been your experience with that, Christopher? That's great.
Well, I'm sure that my children have felt um, alienated from the opportunities that exist with iPhones and other phone. But for us, it has been a way to ensure that they spend their time in what I say being well read, well viewed,
Yes.
and well listened. So,
Wow.
um, so they
What a
of course
great
they miss out
example.
on things. There's not as much connectivity with their friends who like to text, right? So we try
Right.
to resolve that through other ways. But that's also hard because not all friends are comfortable texting the parents to
Mhm.
reach the children. So there's pluses and minuses. On the whole, I have yet to meet a parent who gave their young child a telephone and and didn't have serious challenges with it. So we have
Yes.
avoided those challenges at the least. So anyway, every family gets to choose. So we know
Yes.
we need to
Of
have
course.
expectations, but we also need to be supportive. Okay, let's go to a different subject. Um,
Okay.
you talk about the observing dad. Now, I think I'm observant, but I often have my children, my wife say, are you listening to me? Are you paying attention? Is that what you're talking about, Tal?
I love the question. It's so fun to talk to you because you're such an experienced dad. How many children do you have, Christopher?
The
I'm trying
same
to
as your
remember.
parents. I have nine.
Okay. 9 children. Amazing. So any comments you have on this, I appreciate. But what I'm saying about this is something that I observed in my parents as well. And I should say, there were such great mentors and examples to me, and they've written a lot of parenting books themselves, as many Familius listeners know, Richard and Linda Iyer. And I'm so thankful for them. I want to carry on this important work that they're doing. But to answer your question, my dad was often observing me. I remember once he told me, Tal, you have a different way of seeing the world. I remember one day we were in the car and you were looking out the window and I was wondering what you were looking at, and you were looking at a puddle that was on a manhole on the street, and you were looking at the reflection off of it. And I always remembered that. I thought, wow, okay. Even when I was young, I kind of liked that kind of thing. And it helped me to understand who I was, my dad's observations of me. And just simply telling me and observing and watching me and taking the time to see what I like to do when I'm not really doing anything is a really good way to help your children to figure out who they are and what they like. So that's what I try and do in the book is help dads. I didn't realize it would be this much. I'd say about 40% of the time as a dad for me has been just actually observing and reflecting what I see to my daughter. And that's probably good news for dads because it's not a huge amount of work, but it's just observing. So
Okay. So what we're hearing is when we're with our children, when we're with any other person, that we are engaged in. Let's be in that moment, and
Yes.
let's observe, because there's much we can learn and be given from this other person, particularly our children. And as we know too well, our children go from infant to adult that fast.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. My 12-year-old going on 16, I can hear that. And I wanted to say that what we did with her as well that I'm really proud of is when things kept showing up, Christopher, when I saw the same thing over and over again, you really like to invent things, don't you? We started giving her awards. I just drew it up on a piece of paper, the Inventor Award, and drew a picture of what she had invented. She made this little house for her cat, and we put it up on her the door of her bedroom. And she ended up having about 25 of these awards on her door by the time she sort of finished her childhood, and she just barely took them down. But they've been amazing. The Self-Starter Award, the Leader for the Right Award. Um, and some of them were from my parents who also gave us awards when we were growing up. I just gave it a little bit of a twist to what I was more observing in the kids. Sometimes I wanted my daughter to learn something, to notice things more often. So I gave her awards when she noticed something out of the ordinary, because that's an important trait that I wanted her to develop. So that's an important chapter, and I appreciate you asking about this noticing or this awareness. The dad who is aware is so important.
Okay. Now, you talk about humility, but you reframe it as intellectual humility. What is
Yes.
intellectual humility?
Thank you for asking. So, intellectual humility is the ability to accept and admit that we might be wrong. In this world of, polarized sort of social media, being in silos, I think about this a lot, and I think that the more that dads can say the words, you know what, I might be wrong about that, but let me see. This is what I think. But research has shown that people who exercise this humility, this ability to say, you know what, I could be wrong about what I'm saying right now. I might not know exactly where we're going right now with the map. um, dads tend to feel like they need to say they're always in control and they know everything. But the more research that's done on this, the more it's better to say, you know what, I don't know if I know the answer to that. And that helps the child to realize that they also need to continue to look for the truth, and also when they're wrong, admit it. And I think it's a beautiful way to help lessen this polarization that's happening in the world.
So again, in a simple catchphrase, mess up, fess up. And it's okay for
Beautiful.
our children to know that we make mistakes, but yet we can be honest with ourselves and with others. We can be held accountable to when we might be wrong. I've been reading a book by Steve Young, the San Francisco 49er
Yes,
former
of course.
QB, and he talks about this principle. He says that in one game he threw an interception, and he thought this is going to cost us the game, and there could have been many reasons why the interceptions it was thrown. Could have been the other player running the wrong route, but he said, I knew that I had to accept accountability because I had the ball. I was the one who threw it. And he said
Right.
that as soon as it communicated to the team that it was his mistake, that they rallied around him and that they began to exercise their own accountability and their own responsibilities. There's so much value in having just a sense of humility to say, I could be wrong, or I am wrong. I'm sorry.
Yes. Beautiful. I couldn't say it better, Christopher.
Well, you did in your book. You're much better. Okay. Now, your family does a lot about mission statements and family vision. Of course, many of us have read Stephen or Covey's seminal, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, where we want to develop these mission statements. And I remember creating mine individually, 25, 30 years ago. Um, but how do you recommend we do that within a family environment?
Thanks for asking that. It's been a process for us. But what we did is we decided we wanted to find our core values. And a great way to find your core value as a family is to figure out what is really annoying to you. So if I can't stand when the dishes aren't done, then the opposite of that is I probably like order. That's one of my values. If it just if something else bothers my wife or my daughter, we need to look at what the opposite of those things are, and those might be close to our values. And the more we kind of thought about that, the more we realized what our family values are. And our family values, they really go around a lot with the importance of love and not judging, and also with creating good stories. And so we were able to create a vision statement that says that we are a family that loves first, and we're a family that creates good stories. And that's our vision. And then our mission goes right along with that, because the vision's a little bit kind of big picture. And then the mission is like, what do we do to make that happen? And every day at the dinner table, not every day, but as much as we can, we try and make sense of our stories and create good stories from the day, from the month, from the year. And also, we try to put love first and really think about, did we love that person first when we met them, or did we give them the benefit of the doubt? And that's been our thing as a family, and it's been changing. And I challenge all dads and families to think about what your vision, what your values, and what your mission is going to be. And that's what I talk about in the book.
And then write those down because writing forces clarity of thought. So
Yes,
let's get them
yes.
down on paper. But
We've got it. Actually, we painted ours right by our doors. It's right behind me, actually, by our front door. And it's just love first, create good stories. So yes,
we
right.
have a sign above the kitchen table that says, "Be honest. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything." And and that's one of the things I keep trying to teach them because some of our children, they learn quickly what the right answer is compared to what the honest answer is. For example, did you eat that last piece of pie? The right answer is absolutely not. I did not eat that piece of pie. The honest answer is, yep, I ate it. And so we have always tried to work with the children to understand there's a difference between what you think I want to hear and what the truth is. We want the truth. And boy, do they struggle.
That's beautiful, though. That's beautiful. I can see what one of your core family values might be, right, Christopher. So that's great.
Honesty. Okay. So as an audience, let's find a way to consider what's important to us and to then write a vision statement. And let's have our families embrace it. That'll help govern our actions and help nurture how we'll influence the world around us. All right, stories. We actually just had a podcast with Antonio Sacra, who's a storyteller. And he talked
Mhm.
about the power of stories and how important they are and how he can actually change the dynamic of his family by all just starting with, did I ever tell you about the time that I, and then he tells a story. And I just discovered this the other day where our son came in, he was angry, 17 years old, and he was probably hangry, who knows. And he refused to sit at the table with us for dinner, said didn't know if he was going to eat. And I
Yeah.
said, have I ever told you guys the time that I told, and they all stopped and they all listened, and I told the story and they laughed, and it totally changed the dynamic. So clearly there's something about stories that are powerful, but I bet you have something even more important to share with us about story.
Oh, you couldn't have introduced that better, Christopher. So I think that it's just the way to get their attention, just like you're saying. And I could maybe get my daughter's attention and when she was 2, 3, 4 with other things, but after that, it was story or nothing, or she just wouldn't listen. And now forget about it. She's 12. It's like it's got to be through a story, or through laughter now, or through a sense of humor. But yeah, so I basically go through a little like overview of, put the screens away and tell your children bedtime stories. Start with a bang, have some drama in there, have them try and figure something out that actually helps them to navigate their own life. And I probably told thousands and thousands of stories to my daughter in the car, at a bedtime, at any time sometimes. And I really miss that now because she's kind of grown out of that a little bit. But I think it's such an important thing. And then the overall story of our lives. So that goes into our mission statement. Every day, every month, every year is a story. How do we create a good story? So I'm a big fan of the idea and the power of stories. Americans tend to have what's called a redemptive narrative. And families that have a redemptive narrative or an oscillating narrative seem to be the most healthy families out there because they talk about how they had nothing or they and then they went up and then they lost it and they came back and they figured it out, and it's this narrative of oscillation that's so powerful. And so yeah, that's what I get into in the end of the book.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, okay, before we end this podcast, you've given us a lot to think about, a lot to practice, a lot for us to engage in. You list 25 ways to connect with our children. Now, we probably touched on a few, but is there one way of these 25 that was maybe particularly your favorite or what you could recommend to us to start with?
Yes, thank you for asking. You know what? I would say, Christopher, the best way for me to really be in the moment is to leverage the power of poetry. And what I want to do is I want to end this podcast by reading a poem that is so good about dads that when I heard it, it just channeled this feeling that I have of being a dad and the joy of being a dad. And I would say to dads, if you have the ability to sit down, slow down, and read a poem and really get something out of the poem, you're in that same state. That's a poem state, that's a poem mode, but that's also a great mode for dad mode, for observing your child, for thinking about what you want to do to create a good story with your family. And so, if it's all right, I'd like to finish by just reading this
Absolutely.
poem. I think
Let's
it's
do
so
that.
beautiful. Um, so I listened to a podcast that shared this poem a few years ago, and it just stuck with me. So just I want all the dads out there and moms as well to just take a moment and just slow down for a sec. I'm going to slow down as I read it. And poetry should be read out loud. And I know I'm guessing you, Christopher, are a fan of poetry, but I'm going to read this now.
Let's begin.
Egg by C.G. Hanslacek. I'm scrambling an egg for my daughter. Why are you always whistling? She asks. Because I'm happy. And it's true, though it stuns me to say it out loud. There was a time when I wouldn't have seen it as my future. It's partly a matter of who is there to eat the egg. The self fallen out of love with itself through the tedium of familiarity, or this little self, so curious, so hungry, who emerged from the woman that I love. A woman who loves me in a way I've come to think I deserve. Now that it arrives from outside me, everything changes, we're told. And now the changes are everywhere. The house with its morning light that fills me like a revelation, the yard with its trees that cast a bit more shade each summer, the love of a woman that both is and isn't confounding, and the love of this clamor of questions at my waist. Clamor of questions, you clamor of answers. Here's your egg.
I love it. Thank you. Tal, it's a pleasure to speak with you. Where can our guests find you online?
So I'm on Tal Iyer on Instagram. I'm also you can look up the Dad Mode book just on a Google search, and it's available everywhere now. I'm creating a website right now as well, so you'll be able to find me in a lot of different places.
Great. Tal Iyer, Dad Mode, 25 Ways to Connect with Your Children. Well, as we conclude today's podcast, I'd like to thank Familius for their support in bringing the podcast to your ears and your heart. We'd be thrilled if you subscribed to the podcast and left a review. And when you're ready for that next amazing book adventure, we'd be honored if you chose a book from Familius. One step at a time, one connection with a child at a time, we can make the world a happier place.